Alright, so we're going to do Wireframe and Surface Demo 2, and this is going to be a video on transitioning from Catia 3D Experience to SOLIDWORKS.
Okay, part 2, I'm going to create a new part. Again, we're using generative wireframe surfacing. Whoops. I have to do that twice because I was in part design, so it switched to wireframe and surface. Do it again, and I'll actually create a brand new part. I'm in generative wireframe surface. I've created a brand new part. I'm going to go to this shape and create another spline. And exit out. Do another extrude. Let's go 10 inches long. Looks good. I'll select OK.
Alright, now in SOLIDWORKS, let's go to Sketch, and click the front plane, and grab a spline, and do the exact same process. Okay, then we can go to Surfaces, and Extrude Surface. So with SOLIDWORKS, instead of doing different apps, you just have these tabs up here. But we can also drag this out, just like in Catia, or we can type, let's go 5 inches. Okay, so that's our surface. Looks good. We can hit check. And let's go back into the video.
So I've done extrude. The next one is revolution. I'm going to take that same profile, and it's going to ask for axis of revolution. I'm going to use that Y vector as an axis of revolution. Now see how it's going the wrong way? So I'm going to change this angle to 180. And I'm going to change this angle to 0. And now I've got a full or 180 degree revolution. I'll select OK.
Okay, and in SOLIDWORKS, we can do it. So we can grab our sketch. We can do a revolved surface. This is where it gets tricky. So we need an axis of revolution. On SOLIDWORKS, we don't have the y-axis vector. What we have is front, top, and right planes, but there is no vector or axis that you can select where those meet. So what we have to do, we have to say axis, and we can click our two planes. So we can click front and top and hit check. And now we have an axis that we can rotate about. So we could go grab our sketch, revolved surface, and we can select that axis. And we get the full 360. Instead of having two directions though, we can accomplish what we want with a single direction. So currently it's backwards. All you have to do is click this guy. And now that is what we wanted. You can also, let's go ahead and delete this. Yes, delete our axis, yes. You can also, most of these tabs have a reference geometry, so we can click reference geometry, coordinate system, and we can define our position with numeric values. So we can say 0, 0, 0, which is where our principal planes meet at 0, 0, 0. But we can define an axis system or coordinate system right there. And now what we have is the exact same thing that Catia has. So now we can grab our edge or sketch. Wait, no, you have to do the sketch. Revolved surface, and for our axis of revolution, we can now click that vector. It's a little tricky to click. It's easier if you look straight down on it and then hover over just the letter. And now we're going about the coordinate system. So again, we can change to we only want half a circle, and then since it's on the wrong side, we can click flip. Okay, back to the video.
I'll do yet another extrude from the bottom this time. Going along the X direction the same length as last time, it remembers the last length I used and duplicates that. Okay. Now the
Okay, and in SOLIDWORKS, we cannot use the extrude surface command off of this shape. As you can see, it won't let you select the edge. What we can do, however, is use extend surface, and we can click that. Now, it automatically popped up correctly because I've done this before, but generally, this will be clicked, but via default settings, same surface, and it'll look like nothing at all is happening. Problem is that this number is too high currently, so if we typed, let's say 1 inch, you can see what's happening. It, instead of just extending this edge out linearly, it actually knows that this is a rounded revolved surface, so it will actually try to extend that same concept out. We need it to be linear. So if nothing's happening, make sure that you have this sized correct. And to get this preview, this has to be a reasonable number. If it's too high, then it just looks like nothing's happening when you first start. But we click linear, and we went with 5 inches up top, so we can type in 5 and hit check.
trick is I want to do yet another revolution over here. So I know that this is 10 inches long. What I will do is go to Wireframe and generate a point 10 inches in the X direction. So it puts a point there, and I'll select OK. I can now create a line from that point. Okay, so I got that point. I went and picked it off the tree. I was having trouble grabbing it, and I'm going to go into a direction. So I'm changing it from a point to a point direction. What I'll do is by using direction over here, I will select the Y vector as a direction. Oh, I missed. Go back to point direction. I'm going to grab the point. Again, sometimes it's hard to grab that. You got to maybe rotate this around so I can get in there and snag that. I'm going to try and grab the Y or H. And that doesn't look like it's going the right direction. I'm going to go 10 inches long and hit preview. That doesn't look right. Let's try it again. Under line, point direction, I'm going to grab this point. I'm going to try and grab that Y direction. There we go. And now it's 10 inches long, and I select OK. The only reason I'm creating that line is so I have an axis of revolution. I'm going to go to surface. Again, we're going to do another revolution. Select this edge. Select this as a center line to revolve around, and it finishes that off. Select OK. I'm going to hit undo and I'll do it again. Let's try it from the top. Under revolution, select this and then select this one. See how it went this direction? I knew it was going to do that if I did it from the top, because I knew it was going to use whatever parameters I used last, and it was going to continue on. So if I grab revolution and I grab this as my profile, this is my axis of revolution. Lord, it'll complete that the way I want that to be completed. I can select OK. Now with that part done, I can create a solid from that. How do I do that?
Okay, and in SOLIDWORKS, you sadly, if you go to Revolve, you can't just click this edge. So what it's wanting is a plane or planar face or an edge on which to sketch the feature. So you can't just use an existing feature to revolve. So what we need to do is to do a plane. We can click this face. It'll do a plane in line with that edge that we do want. Click yes. We go to sketch. And we can just hit convert entities. Click our line. Yes. Now we have that blackened edge. That's our sketch. We can then do surfaces, revolved surface. Now the other problem is that we still do not have an axis here. So there's a couple ways that you can go about that. You can gotta exit the sketch first. You can do your reference geometry and coordinate point system defined by numeric value. And we can see down here that we're in the z direction. So we could say 5 inches in the z, and we could put a new axis coordinate system here. Or, and also to hide these, just drop here and click view coordinate systems. That makes them go away. The other option that we can do, since we already had to put a plane here, so we can do an axis, click our new plane, hit the tree drop down, and click top plane, and that automatically puts an axis there. The benefit with this is if you end up modifying this extrude length, this will move with your modified number, whereas if you do the axis coordinate system and you say it by 5, you're going to be revolving around the wrong position unless you define this with a formula. So just doing your plane on your edge and grabbing your 2 planes to make your axis, it's a little bit easier for it to not have issues later. But we can grab our sketch that we used to convert entities on, go to revolved surface. Now we have an axis that we can pick. We can change that to 180, flip directions. There we have it, and we can either go and hide these individually, or you could use your view filters to get rid of, let's say, axis or planes. But I will just hide them individually. Now we have this shape.
Again, I go to 3D and I switch to part design, because if you want to make it solid, it's part design. If you want to make surfaces or lines and curves, wireframe elements, then you have to create, or that's created in generative shape and wireframe. But solids are all in part design. So if I want a solid entity, I can apply mass, find weight and such. You got to do that in part design. I'm going to grab, one thing I forgot to do. I got to go back to generative shape design. And I'm going to select transform, and I'm going to transform join. I'm going to join this revolution, this extrude, this revolution, and this extrude all as one piece. And what most groups like to do is they like to do a federate all. So I'm going to use the federation tab and select all. And when I select OK, a little yellow F will show up on that federate. So I know it's a federated join surface. Now I can switch back into part design. I will make the part body under.
Alright, so to do that in SOLIDWORKS, you don't need to leave the surface tab. What you use is knit surface. And then you can just click the bodies that you want to, or surfaces that you want to be one. You can create a solid or merge entities. So now you can still click each individual surface, but SOLIDWORKS will think of this as one piece.
underlined so it knows I'm working in part design. And I will go back to that trick I showed you earlier. Thick surface, select OK. It's going to go this inward direction. I'll go inwards 0.25. Hide the geometrical set. And there's your solid.
Okay, and as before, we can stay in our Surfaces tab and just hit Thicken, and click the one knitted surface now. Click 0.25, and you can see how that adds thickness throughout. So if we say OK to that, everything gets thick. But had we, let's go ahead and delete that. Yes, we can delete our knit. If we went to thicken it without knitting them together, SOLIDWORKS would only try to do the one. And you can't thicken multiple separate pieces. So that's why you need to use the knit. Select all your pieces, you merge them, then you can thicken, and now it thinks it's one piece. You can either thicken 1/4 inch both sides, one side, or top side. Let's go outside for now.
Okay, I'm going to hit undo. Oops, I think I might have undid too far. Let's make this the in-work object. Select join, and I'm going to grab close surface and select OK. When I hide the geometrical set, what you see is I've got a solid part right now. Okay, so what might have taken a very long time to try and figure out how to do in just part design was relatively easy using generative shape design, generative wireframe, and surface design. Okay, so that concludes this second demo on wireframe and surfacing to include Revolution.
Okay, so to do that last step, we can get rid of our thicken, and we can do a, where'd it go? Filled surface. Then you got to click your outside edges. You're gonna check. You can see that kind of puts a lid on it, and you can do that to both sides. Filled surface. Click around your contour, and now we got our sealed vase looking thing. And that's the conclusion of the Catia to SOLIDWORKS on Demo 2.